Hi folks, it's Dr. Smith, i.e. Smitty, and I'm doing the filming of who else? And who are you?
Miss Katie.
Miss Katie, my lovely bride, and today she is a new game for us, fresh from across the Atlantic Ocean. And what game is that, Miss Katie?
It is less than 60 miles.
And who is it by?
Thin Red Line Games.
And what's in the corner you were going to point out to everyone?
That is an ugly VW Beetle bus that my dear departed brother-in-law used to own at one point in time.
And where was our honeymoon?
Belgium.
And particularly where?
Bon Secours.
And where did we go on our honeymoon special?
We saw Dragon's Teeth.
We
saw lots of battlefields.
We went to, and what battlefield did we hear taps at?
I don't remember.
Ypres. Ypres. But yes, we went to Aachen.
We did.
To go see Dragon's Teeth. So this is an area where Miss Katie has more than a passing familiarity with. And of course, who is my combat patch with, Miss Katie?
5th Corps, the Chrysler patch.
The Chrysler patch. So, having seen that this was the Chrysler patch, we're even happier. As always, we thank you.
Thank you guys. See you later.
Hi folks, it's Smitty. It's the end of May. It's 28 May. Today was supposed to be our house closing, but the contractor sent us the wrong paperwork, so we couldn't close it. And of course, you notice I'm trying to be those other kind of reviewers because I have my hat on backwards and I look stupid like that, don't I? So we'll look at the way Smitty does. We'll do the official military, make sure our hat's on the right way. Well, it's not a hat. What is it, Miss Katie?
It's a baseball cap.
It's a cover, Miss Katie.
Whatever.
We're talking military.
That is a baseball cap.
1705, we'll have corrective actions with you.
Oh, whatever.
But, as Miss Katie talked to you about earlier, it is less than 60 miles, Thin Red Line, and for the third time, we will talk about the little VW bus. I like the smoke, the fire, and even better, the runway number is my 5th grade roster number, 27. So you know what that means, folks? This has to be a special game then. Now, I'll talk to you before, only part of the map, but this looks so much like the 1/50,000 scale coloration that we all used and that many of us still have, a collection of those maps. Because, well, we never knew when we were going to use them. And when we got to Iraq for the invasion in 2003, guess what we didn't have? Maps. And some of the maps we did have, well, the palm trees were wrong because, oh, my God, in 20 years the palm trees grew. And our maps did not reflect that. So, it's always a good thing to have good maps. We have two different sets of cards in the game. We have the 5th card ones. The top one is a lucky shot. We whack a Warsaw Pact commander. Always liked doing those. The second one would be the Central Front card. And let's see what the first one is. Snafu. Situation normal, all fouled up. And I actually had to do corrective actions on a young National Guard captain, Army Reserve captain out of Arkansas, who wrote that in an article while I was in command of a task force. Well, let's just say he had a less than happy time for having done that. Dice, 2 of them, 10-sided. I will come even close. Don't move the camera around. Purple and black. Looks like almost the Minnesota Vikings colors, except then it would have to be gold. For our friend Sam, what do we have?
Baggies.
Baggies. We have 6 sets of counter sheets. And of course, you would know, Miss Katie, I put them in backwards. 6 counter sheets. And I was saying to Miss Katie before we had a weather alert pop up and pooch the video. We have the American and Germans on counter sheet 1. We have, of course, depending upon which side you're playing, the Russians and the Warsaw Pact elements. And then we have 4 sets of markers. 1, 2, 3, and 4. We have a rule book that feels much thicker than it is. I believe it's 36 pages. So let me see if I did my math right. It's 36 pages. So nicely done, but no color in it, which is unusual. That's kind of unusual these days, and I'll show you what I mean here. That, like the Warsaw Pact Advance Axis, it's not in color. That's sort of a little more old school there. And old school almost 1990s. Then you've got a very copious 25-page scenario. And this one I like best because we've got T-80 tanks with their snorkels to do an amphibious crossing. Well, of course I like that. I was among the Lord's favorite. I was an armor officer. Why would I not like that? And we've got Mittens to help us, and we will say goodbye to Mittens. Say goodbye, Mittens. Then we have many, many good player aids. We've got the ground combat chart. We have the time track chart. As we talked about later, we've got this booklet which has 8 pages of various charts, units legends, and most important, because you can't play without, orders of battle. And of course we've got Victory Corps' order of battle. And as always, what do I talk to people about last, Miss Katie? Oh wait, and the black box at the back. Ooh, that's different at least. Books. I always like talking about my books. We've got first Hackett's. Hackett actually did 2 volumes. This is probably the one most people know, so that's all good. Stop. We had the Chewy order come because when you got 5, 10 rescue cats, and how many dogs do we have, Miss Katie?
2.
2 dogs. That was a math problem for her. We have 2 versions of Team Yankee. Well, they're one and the same. But this one was signed by Harold Coyle at Fort Hood. He's a bit of a, he could have been nicer. The Cold War, good thick read. Generally fairly balanced. You might expect it to go one direction or the other, but it is a good read. And then, of course, my favorite, I got several of these, the Soviet military books, and, ooh, these things are really nice and glossy, and are well done. And of course, my favorite phrase, well done, and this one, oh, what we think is the Soviet ABM system, and then all sorts of great data in here to include subs, helicopters, air forces, tanks. These, if you can find one of these, get it. They are just priceless to read, and they will enhance your wargaming experience more than any single thing you will find. As always, we thank you. We thank all of you who are our channel subscribers, because we're now in double digits, which means we're above 9, so that makes us real happy. So again, we thank you, folks. Bye-bye. Hi, folks. It's Smitty. It's May. It's Thursday. We're here with less than 60 miles, a nice Italian game, And of course, good cover, what I like best. Looks like my brother's VW bus, except it doesn't have curtains in it. And of course, we got the air calf coming in. And you gotta like the damage in the town. But you gotta really like the back cover because it's all glossy, and it is, let me show it to you when I take it off here. It's all black. Oh no, the last time I've seen a box cover that did not have something on the back. Very, very different, very unusual. Now, let's look at the game cards. Central front, the back of the cards, and then this is just a sample. We got, of course, a North Ag Crisis, Snafu. Ooh, of course, we're not going to say what that stands for. Captured Officer, and my favorite other piece of equipment, other than, of course, the M1 tank, the Vincent. Vincents were, they were sometimes problematic, and I spent much more time with my Vincent than my loader ever did because I was much more comfortable with making it work. My friend Barry hates when he sees maps that look like this that show up in videos because you can see that it's all lumpy. So what we will do, we will go ahead and smooth this map out for you. But this is some idea because you can see here, bumpy. This booklet has 4 different sets of tables. Correction, 4 pages worth of different things. We have nuclear attack here, the unit legend, and movement. But it all total has, and let's count for you here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pages of varying tables. Then, of course, you've got your time track and your points track table. You have your ground combat chart and sequence and modifier summary here. And of course, the all-important order of battle cards. Of course, there's 5th Corps' order of battle. And then, of course, we have the Soviet Warsaw Pact, the Central Front order of battle here. Let's look at counter sheets. The game comes with 6 different counter sheets. And here we have, of course, me, the American, and our friends, the West Germans, when they used to have an army that mattered. Now they don't have an army that mattered, and they have no U-boats. Now we have the Red Army. And of course, we have underneath, well, what do you folks think that is? I'll leave you take a look in the video. But yeah, different sort of hue for the Red Army. Makes it much more interesting. Then we have, because this game is driven a lot by, yes, this. We have a lot of markers in this game. Counter sheet number 4, we had to shoot Patsy off again because Patsy was wanting to come over and do Patsy things here with counter sheets. So counter sheet number 4, counter sheet number 5, and counter sheet number 6. What I like best here, I like these. And this is an interesting color array here. Almost kind of like a rosé wine. Now, of course, we may have my favorite, the 5th Corps, Victory Corps. Because who do I have my combat patch with from Iraq? It's 5th Corps, although this looks more like a NATO symbol to me. Now here we have the wild weasels. Wild weasels, man, they do kick butt. Human, well, the CIA seems to spend more of its time wanting to look at Americans these days, but that would sound like a political statement, so you can just ignore that. AWACS, which if you go by Red Storm Rising from Tom Clancy, critical to that book, and of course, code breakers always matter. Oh, I have to show you two more cards. Of course, Spetsnaz, yeah, everyone expects them. But this card I really like, the Red Army faction card. Now we know that the Red Army at that point had been gutted by the authorities. But were there other sleeper type cells? You betcha. So I'm thinking this is also indicative of those type of cells that were out there. And just as a reminder, here again are those military books I talked to you about. The Soviet Military Power, 1987. Nice little yearbook. Of course, the book, Hackett's The Third World War. Then there is Team Yankee. Well, there's cover 1, and there's cover 2 that I had Coyle sign for me when he was at Fort Hood. And then, of course, just the general good work on the Cold War.